What is going on, my fellow UDL friends? It is I, your commissioner, Matty Brolick, back for the last time of UDL Season 3. I don't want to have to say it, but finally, we are here for finals of UDL Season 3. Already one bad pun in this video. Hopefully not too many more, but it is the final matchup, X Conference versus Y Conference, and it is between none other than myself versus the BBC King, Iron Flash Gaming, Tony Zazo, Tony Balboa, the BBC King of Lizards, and I don't know where I'm going with this. I was just trying to give him a nice introduction, but the real introduction for this man is actually my girlfriend, because him and I, we call each other girlfriends because we are on the phone with each other more than we are with our actual girlfriends. So he's just my closest buddy. Like, obviously I'm extremely close with a lot of you guys. Like, UDO really just has that awesome, like, family kind of vibe, and so many of you I really consider to be like my closest friends. But he's just someone that I am on the phone with and talking to so often, and we have an extremely close bond. So it's just such a privilege to be able to get to play my boy Tony in finals. We talked about it before the season. We've talked about it, hell, like years ago. We always dreamed about getting to play each other in the finals, and I really thought it would never happen because he has just not been competing in leagues very often anymore, and it's like a big time commitment for him. So even getting him to play UDL was difficult, but one of the reasons he wanted to play was to play me in finals. And hey, like, listen, when it comes to me, I do not trust myself to make finals, because whenever it comes to the playoffs or like championships, like, my track record is not very good. So I just don't trust myself to make it, even if I will have a dominant performance during the season. It just hasn't really traditionally worked out for me the best. But he was confident that I would make it, and he was confident that he would make it, and I was confident he would too, because when he sets his mind to something, he almost always gets it done. So I believed in him to be able to make the finals. I just wasn't sure about myself, but lo and behold, he was able to make it like he said he would, and then here I am as well, getting to play against my best bud in finals. What else is there to say about Big Tony? You guys all know him really well, and he's widely regarded as one of the greatest draft league players, if not the greatest to ever do it. And he really, I think, has earned all of that, especially lately. Like, you know, he was so good back in the day, but now he's just had so many amazing accomplishments. Like, in recent years, I know in DPL Season 2, he had one of the best seasons in DPL, like always getting matched up against the opponent's top players and going like undefeated during the regular season or something, and just did really well back then. Won Cash Gang into winning TDT, and then even the doubles off-season tournament for UDL. So like, he was just on this insane winning streak, and then to make it all the way to finals in UDL, the guy has just been on fire for so long, and in my opinion might be the most impressive draft league run of all time. So shout outs to my man. Is just he's pretty otherworldly. He's next level when it comes to competitive Pokemon, because even when he's not trying his hardest, like he did during the regular season of UDL, he was still able to get the first seed in his conference and make finals even when he was busy with DPL and everything. So that's awesome. It's cool to see someone who's just so consistently good at what they do, especially over this many years. Like, his play style and his skill has never really been tested too much. Like, he's always been right at the top, and that's never changed. So just wanted to give him the proper introduction that he deserves, because, like I said, he's just an incredible guy, amazing friend, and just top tier Pokemon player. So I know I had my work cut out for me in this finals matchup. We got a best of 3. He was adamant on wanting to play Oras for the 3rd game because he's an entertainer, so he wants, if it's going to be me trying to get my first big championship, he wanted it to be against him in Oras because that's his favorite tier, and he's probably got the best matchup, even team matchup wise, in Oras, so he wanted to put all the suspense on that if it should go to game 3. So I'm thinking in my head, like, listen, I still want to play that game 3 just for fun, but I'm planning to win it in 2 because I know that Oras matchup is probably my toughest team matchup wise. I do consider Oras to probably be my best tier because it's just a really good tier for offensive players in my opinion. But overall, I do think that could be a tough one. And hey, you know me, I don't like to drop games, so let's do this the Matty Brawlock style. Let's try to win it undefeated. Let's try to win it in 2. So we have Sword and Shield up first, then Sun and Moon, and then we will go to Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, regardless of whether someone wins it in 2 or not. So let's get right into the game. Don't want to dawdle too much. Want to kind of get this done quickly because I'm actually kind of busy doing something late at night and just need to sleep. So he leads with Garchomp. I lead with Latias. I'm a Choice Specs Latias. This wasn't a good play on his end, knowing what the rest of his team was, but I understand why he did it to some extent because he knows that I normally would not risk losing my Latias turn 1 to like a Sash Garchomp that could just knock me out. And he also has other switch-ins to my Latias, so it makes a lot of sense for me to switch out here and scout, but I just kind of make a bold call here because the lead... My Sword and Shield matchup I didn't think looked very good, but I actually feel like I built a team that was really solid against him. But the worst part about this matchup was the lead because I just don't have many mods on my team that can comfortably lead against what he brings. But thankfully, leading Latias worked, and he was just ended up sacking Garchomp turn 1, so that actually worked out pretty well for me, or very well for me, because turns out like he was Assault Vest Slowking, Assault Vest Diggersby, Leftovers Aegislash, like he had switch-ins upon switch-ins to that thing, so that probably couldn't have gone any better that turn 1. But here I'm going to go right into my Klefki as he's going to U-turn with the Diggersby. Goes into his Rotom Fan, and I just Combine here to kind of like scout what this thing is going to do. He goes right for a Volt Switch. Klefki was a mon that I kept on this team because it has a lot of high upside as a win con because it's Combine, Magnet Rise, Draining Kiss, Stored Power, and it really just puts in a lot of work against most of his team. It's hard for him to kill, and with a Toxic Spike up, which I have in my Nihilego, it's so hard for him to deal with, potentially, but in a lot of my mocks, it just hasn't really... I've been, I guess, just too passive setting it up and focusing on the other sets because I know that they work more consistently, so this game I decided to play the Klefki a little more recklessly because even though it can be a really good win con, I wasn't really getting much out of it in my other tests, so I was like, you know what, let me play it a little bit recklessly to see if I could just get it in there and get it doing what it could potentially do versus him. So he brings in the Diggersby. I have Magnet Rise, but I don't go for it right there because I'm scouting for Fire Punch, so he does just make the bold U-turn play. Not really bold, but he does just go for the U-turn there, and he Air Slashes me with his Rotom Fan, so I'm expecting he's probably going to have Defog the way he's playing this, but it's okay because I do have Toxic here, so poisoning it is really nice for the Rillaboom, and then it makes this thing harder to defog later on, and I have the more important hazards on Nihilego because I have dual screens plus Toxic Spikes, and Toxic Spikes are really what are key here, so I'm going to go right for a Reflect here in case he wanted to go hard into Diggersby. At this point, I don't know if he's Scarf. He could be Scarf, so I go for the Reflect, and now I'm going to get up my Toxic Spikes, and he crits me, which is actually really big because as you can see, that Skull before that did 22. So yeah, it really wasn't doing too much. Even without light screen up, it was doing less than half. So the fact that he crit me was actually enough to knock me out, which is really unfortunate because he does not have good ways of preventing Nihilego from getting screens or a Toxic Spike up if he's able to remove them. So the fact that I just lost that is actually really, really bad, and I wasn't expecting it because even if he had Psyshock, I could live it. So Now I go into Rillaboom and I make a bit of a misplay here. I Swords Dance because behind screens, even like a Choice Banded Zapdos doesn't knock me out with Brave Bird because I'm a pretty bulky Rillaboom. So I could just win if I get off a Swords Dance here. Especially if the Rotom is not Boots, it goes down to +2 Grassy Glide from here. So I just kind of go for this play because I'm like, what is he going to do to play around it? But I just kind of blanked on the Dragon Tail for a second. So I probably in hindsight should have knocked off. But that really, like let's say he did switch out there, I probably just win because I'm Protective Pads for King Shield Aegislash. So that can't play around me either. So he Dragon Tails me into Klefki as now I go for the Calm Mind. I guess in hindsight here I probably should have switched Klefki out to something else, but I thought that Klefki could have a decent setup opportunity here. As now I'm going to Calm Mind again. He reveals the Thunder Wave, which I really wasn't expecting, as it's harder to deal with than like Burn or something. So now here I'm going to go into my Druddigon and just sack this on the Diggersby. Get a little bit of chip on him with the Rough Skin and Rocky Helmet. Bring in my Rillaboom, and I'm just going to click Knockoff here, because the Diggersby is probably in knockoff range, and nothing else really appreciates getting their item knocked off, but it turns out this is actually a bulky Zapdos with Rocky Helmet. I am Protective Pad, so I don't take damage from it, but that's going to be actually more hard to deal with late game without having access to screens, so that is another reason that losing my screens was really unfortunate there. So here I reveal the Magnet Rise, but the unfortunate thing is that like the Diggersby is healing up from the grassy terrain. So here he goes into the Aegislash as I Calm Mind, and the Flash Cannon really doesn't do much, but it turns out he's got Shadow Claw too, so it's hard for me to just straight up wall this. If I had gotten the second Calm Mind up though there, I would have been able to just start Draining Kissing this down, because it would have been taking like 20-something%, so I would have been able to heal plus leftovers pretty much as much that he was damaging me, so I would at least be able to put this Aegislash or start like chipping it down and put it in a scenario where like unless it gets like Spidef drops from Flash Cannon or crits from Shadow Claw, it couldn't really 1v1 me, so that power was a little bit annoying, but it's paralysis, so that's what it does. So here I U-turn into my Specs Latias, as I'm actually just going to go right for the Healing Wish here. The thing is, I don't have Toxic Spikes up. Latias was really good with Toxic Spikes because Slowking isn't really the best check to like Specs Dragon Pulse, Specs Shadow Ball. Like those things really wear down the Slowking with Toxic Spikes. Same thing with Diggersby. And then obviously chipping down the Aegislash would be really nice, but it seemed like at this point he was playing very gingerly around the Klefki, so I'm just kind of hoping that the Klefki could like perform a miracle here, because I really was in such a good spot if I had my Nihilego still, as like with a Toxic Spike up, he just pretty much can't beat this. Like he just straight up kind of can't beat this. The only way he would be able to is to get like a power on a crucial turn where like I need a Magnet Rise and he gets like a high horsepower off. That's pretty much like the only way, or he just gets tons of powers in a row and like is able to whittle me down with something else. But for the most part, with a Toxic Spike, like this Diggersby would be dead by now. So like I wouldn't even have to worry about getting powered, and then just I'd be able to spam Draining Kiss against the rest of his team and just heal up more than they could damage me, and it would be GG. So pretty unfortunate in my opinion about the Nihilego, because another thing too is that if I got a Reflect up, Rillaboom pretty much wins, because at least it could. Like obviously there might have been little things here and there, like I know he was a pretty bulky Aegislash, so a +2 knockoff actually didn't kill, but for example, like he's a Drill Peck, Thunderous Kick, bulky Zapdos, and behind screens, Drill Peck doesn't even come close to 2-KOing my Rillaboom. So I'd be able to get off like 2 Swords Dances and then 2-KO this thing with Grassy Glide, and then obviously everything else goes down. So here's you're going to see at +2, Grassy Glide actually does almost 40%, but he crits me with the Drill Peck. Without the crit, it does like high 50s or something like that. So that crit actually does kind of suck, because turns out he's rest. I thought at this point that I still would have won, because I could just Grassy Glide again, and then everything would be in knockoff range for Crocodile, and I'm Moxie Scarf Crocodile, so I would just sweep. But it turns out that he was rest, but the thing is, even though he's rest, I would have been able, like, he would have needed to get he would have needed to get good sleep talk rolls to be able to reliably beat my Rillaboom. Like, because if he got a couple of bad sleep talk rolls in a row, then Rillaboom just won the game. But that wasn't obviously something that was reliable. If I had a screen up, if I had a reflect up, then Rillaboom just pretty much wins the game. But also the Klefki was the main thing. I just really don't think he had a way of beating the Klefki if I had a Toxic Spike up. So that Scald crit really screwed me, because I think that I just, would have had this game won, and Sun and Moon is probably my best matchup here, and I really like the team that I built. So I was pretty bummed about this, because it's just annoying that our first game was as hacksy as it was, because, like, obviously it's a finals game, you don't want it to be hacks in general. He's my bud, so, like, of course I don't want it to be a not. We've been, like, dreaming of having this game for a long time, so we don't want it to be obstructed by hacks, but that's just the nature of Pokemon. So that really kind of sucked, because I really do think I would have won this game had I been able to still preserve my Nihilego, but don't really know for sure, and that's the frustrating part. So going on to game 2, he's got a pretty monstrous team. He left his Meowstic and Swampert on the bench, whereas I left my Infernape and what else did I leave on the bench? Nidoqueen. So the thing about this matchup is Darkrai, like, throughout the season, I think I've used it well. Like, it's done really well for me, but, like, I really have to play it carefully and position it super well. But in this game, just Will-O-Wisp, Sub, Calm Mind, Mono Dark Pulse, Darkrai is really, really hard for him to deal with. Like, Muck either needs to be, like, a really, like, specific and very shaky set versus, like, so many other of my team members to, like, straight up counter the Darkrai. But if he tries to bring something that's, like, relatively usable against anything else, like Assault Vest or some kind of Rest Talk, it really struggles with this Darkrai, especially because I have Healing Wish in the back. It's hard for him to take on the Darkrai twice. So, and I have a lot of other Pokemon that could actually do quite a bit to the Muck, and the rest of his team is pretty much just like a sitting duck to this Darkrai. So I am feeling pretty good about this matchup, but, like, he really has a lot of massive threats. This Manaphy in particular, I've let myself be kind of weak to in prep. And Mega Garchomp just kind of rips through my team. Torn is always a bit annoying, but I do think I can handle it pretty well in this game. It's mostly the Manaphy, the Aegislash, and the Garchomp that I'm particularly worried about. And the Necrozma is obviously a very tricky Pokemon, so it could be difficult to play around. But we'll get right into it as he leads with his Gilgamesh Manaphy. I don't even know if he knows who that is, anime character-wise, but maybe he's just seen me use that name a lot. So he goes into Manaphy, and I lead with Dragonite. We actually restarted this game because we said before we had the series, like, if there's any big hacks in, like, the first couple turns that it's like an easy fix, then maybe we'll restart. So I said it was his call, because I'm not allowed to, like, based on the rules, it has to be the person who hacks as the other person to decide, like, I want to give you the restart. So he decided to restart, which was nice because he just Scald Burned my Dragonite turn 1, which, like, yes, it's Scald, but at the same time, like, he doesn't have much counterplay to this Dragonite. So the fact that, like, he had to just sit there and spam Scald was kind of lame that I just got burned turn 1, because that's just kind of getting bailed out on his end. So yeah, that would suck just to get burned here, knowing how much work this Dragonite could put in. But he was nice enough to give me a restart, so really good sportsmanship on his end, as I'm able to get up the Dragon Dance, and I'm Z Outrage, so I'm just going to click it here because something's just going to drop to this. Even if you went Aegislash there, it's going to take over half, and then he's in range of Earthquake, even if he's like Shucka Berry. So he actually ends up being Air Balloon, and I probably should have stayed in here because my Snorlax set is really, really good against this team. And my move to hit Aegislash is Earthquake, so not popping the balloon here was a misplay in hindsight, but I'm not going to lie, I was pretty tilted after the first game, and as you're going to see throughout this game, like, just wasn't, like, I guess I would just explain it as almost like I almost didn't even feel like I was there. Like, it was just all happening so fast, like it was a blur, and I almost don't even remember it. It was bizarre. I was pretty tilted. I didn't sleep last night because I was really excited about the finals game in a good way. Like I was nervous, of course, but like good excitement. But I was just so focused about it that I had trouble sleeping. And then I don't know if that affected me in this game. I'm not trying to make excuses for myself or anything like that, but whatever it was, plus being tilted, I just almost didn't even feel like I was conscious during this game. It didn't feel like my other games in recent times, so I'll tell you that much. But like I said, I built, I think, a really good team here, so even if I do make some mistakes, I think I could still win. So here I go right into my Steelix because I could take any hits from Aegis Slash if you wanted to go for like a Shadow Ball. I could easily avoid a 2-hit KO without a Spadef drop. If he Swords Dance, I could take a +2 Sacred Sword, and I could at least pop the Air Balloon, which would be amazing for Snorlax. So he does make a good play and switch into Manaphy here. So I'm going to go right into my Mesprit, as I was kind of surprised to see him go for Tail Glow, because when he scalded my Dragonite, it revealed that he's like no special attack. And I thought in that case maybe he'd be more likely to be Calm Mind, but he actually goes for the Tail Glow here. And because he's no special attack, it actually works out better for him, because my Mesprit is designed to take like a +3 Surf or Scald and get the 50% berry popped. I can't remember which one I am in this game. Maybe like Mago Berry or something, or Iapapa Berry. I think Mago. And he scalds me and puts me in a 2-hit KO range. Maybe I could have Thunder Waved here, but I wanted to just get some damage on this, so it's in range of potentially Darkrai or Snorlax, but it turns out with this damage that he actually is like a max HP Manaphy with a little bit of Spadef, so it did a little less than I expected, which actually puts it outside of Darkrai range, so that's actually annoying. Maybe Thunder Wave would have been the better play, but I want to just get damage on this and then preserve it because Healing Wish is so valuable here, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into my Snorlax here, and it turns out he Calm Mind, so he's actually both Tail Glow plus Calm Mind, so pretty cool set. Probably going to be, I'm thinking, either a like an Iapapa Berry, because Tony loves those sets, or like a Resto Chesto Manaphy at this point with just a single move, because Scald actually does kind of just, it is enough to just beat my team if he gets enough boosts. So I calc +4 Scald, and even with a burn, it can't 2-hit KO me, and I'm a Figgy Berry Snorlax, so I calc that, and I'm like, okay, cool, I Belly Drum here, right? And he goes for the rest. Turns out he is Resto Chesto, as I go for the Recycle. And I swear I did not mean to do that. It happened last week too, versus Hiker. I can't believe it happened twice in a row. I mean, I could kind of believe it tonight in this game because of how, like I was saying, I just didn't feel there. I was that plus tilted, and things weren't just, I didn't feel the same way I normally do. I didn't feel that level of like focus and like control that I normally feel when I'm playing. But I did calc it and just come up with like, yes, no matter what, like my play here is Belly Drum, because he can't 2-hit KO me. So if he does Scald and then attacks again at +4, I'll still be at over half, as I'm able to knock him out with like a +6 move. So, or at the very least force him out, which would be nice, because forcing this Manaphy out, I do have things to handle this now, because he's Mono Scald, so Dragonite can handle it if I don't get burned. Darkrai can handle it if it's not already set up. And then, because even if he wants to rest on me, he doesn't have the Chesto Berry anymore, so he can't really rest on me because he doesn't have Sleep Talk, and then Bad Dreams will weaken him down. So, yeah, I end up clicking Recycle by accident, but thankfully Tony was being very gracious and decided to rest again. I told him he didn't have to, because obviously I deserved to be punished, but he was being really nice, so that was very cool of him to do, as now we'll see how it was actually supposed to play out as I go for the Belly Drum. And now I'm going to Recycle here, because I just don't really lose anything by it. So here he Scalds again, and I get the recovery back, and I return and knock him out. So I was surprised he kind of stayed in there, but yeah, I guess one thing he doesn't know for sure, that I'm not or Crunch on Snorlax for Aegislash, and also just weakening this thing to put it in range of something else could be beneficial for him. But he actually turns out that he's like a very, very bulky Spadef Garchomp. So he's Stealth Rocked here, and I thought that was kind of a misplay because he's Mega Garchomp, and Mega Garchomp Earthquake would have a good shot at knocking me out here, or if he was offensive, it would definitely knock me out here. If he was uninvested, then it actually doesn't knock me out here, and it turns out he actually was like a no-attack Garchomp pretty much. So he does stay in base form though, and I do get some damage on me, which puts me in range of Sacred Sword. I might have been in range of that anyway, but he decided to get rocks up, and that also helps for his matchup versus Dragonite, which makes sense because if I Healing Wish that back up, he could just lose to Dragon Dance Dragonite potentially, especially if I pop the Air Balloon on this Aegislash, then he almost has nothing he could do about Dragonite. So I think that's why he made that Stealth Rock play. So I go into my Steelix and I just click Roar here as he goes into his Necrozma. Now here I'm just going to click Heavy Slam, hoping that he does let me pop that balloon, but he goes into Necrozma again, and I crit it, which is lame, but it doesn't really end up mattering in the long run. He Earth Powers me and does 40% as I Roar again, just in case he wanted to set up. So here I'm going to preserve this actually, because his best play here, I think, is to Sacred Sword and get rid of my Steelix. And I'm going to go Mesprit here, because if he does Swords Dance, I actually do get my 50% berry on this burn, and I go out of range of Shadow Sneak most likely. But if he does not, if he does Sacred Sword, same thing happens, and it's better because he's not a +2. So he does Sacred Sword here, and I get the berry back, and now I'm going to Healing Wish up my Steelix just because it is pretty good as an Aegislash check, which could be potentially dangerous in this late game. But Darkrai is looking pretty good here in this late game. Darkrai plus Snorlax plus Steelix, like it's really hard for him to deal with all three of these. So I just go for Outrage here. I could have risked going for DD, but it probably wasn't worth it because this is a pretty solid win route too. It pretty much just comes down to me not getting confused for one turn, because if I get enough damage on Aegislash and put it in Darkrai range, it just wins here. So here, thankfully, I do break out of the confusion, and I damage the Aegislash, and then I break out of it again, and I knock him out. So unlucky for him, but he would need to be at +6 and crit my Darkrai to have a chance to win. So it was pretty much looking good for me at that point, as I'm just able to Dark Pulse and knock out the Necrozma. So the Sun and Moon game was something. Like, I think we both built really, really good teams here, and that was just cool to see, like really creative sets and high level game planning. But I just don't feel like I executed. I mean, I know I didn't execute nearly as well as I could have normally, but I just wasn't really feeling with it during this game. It's kind of hard to explain, but yeah, I just felt out of it and couldn't really focus, and I just felt a little like on autopilot. But thankfully my team had a pretty good matchup, I think, and I really did do a good job building, so it was able to carry me despite making some mistakes. So moving on to Game 3. Big Tony predicted from the beginning it was going to come down to Oras. Game 3 finals. That's his main tier, and obviously Game 3 is always the most hype. So can I beat Tony in his home tier when he's got a really solid matchup against me to win my first championship? We will see. I do think that, like I said, it's a tough matchup for me, but I really like the team that I built. I know it's kind of obvious that I'll bring something like Spectra Galgi, and with Trick Room support Mesprit and Healing Wish, but it's a scenario where he doesn't have a fairy in all 3 gens, so I brought like Dragon Spam, Screens, and Healing Wish in all 3 gens. Because he just didn't really have the counterplay to it, and I felt I was able to structure my teams in a way that, like, if he tries to bring if he really tries to go out of his way, I guess, to counter some of those things that might be predictable, I have plenty of ways to punish those things. So I was at least feeling pretty good about that. But this was definitely the toughest matchup on paper, but I like what I came up with. It's Sash Spikes Greninja, Screens Mamoswine with Freeze Dry. I actually had knockoff over Freeze Dry, but OB brought a Demon set, which was like a sub Will-O-Wisp Rotom that just could stall out the screens, and I and like burn things and just keep subbing up like things on the Dragalge and really weaken it. So it was just really, really good against me. So I decided to go with Freeze Dry just in case he brought a set like that. But the screens, rocks, Freeze Dry, Mamoswine could be very nice because rocks, hazards in general, are really good against his team. He didn't bring the arrow, which I was surprised about, but agility, adamant Mega Sceptile, because if I weaken the Aegislash or knock it out, then Sceptile goes pretty crazy here, because if Roselia wants to check Sceptile specially, then it just gets hammered by Outrage, taking like 65 even if he's got some defensive bulk, and if he has like none, then it takes like over 70. I think almost 80 minimum from Adamant Outrage, so that is very nice. And if I am able to weaken the Aegislash, that could help for Dragalge as well, so they can kind of both break and clean for each other. And then I have a Scarf Infernape. Infernape was pretty expendable in this matchup, but I just needed a last Mon that could do some things I needed it to do. And one of the main things that it was helpful for was Arrow, but he actually didn't bring it. So at team matchup, I'm like, damn, Infernape has a worse matchup now because he brought all the checks pretty much. The Uxie, the Rotom, the Keldeo. So last Mon that we have here is the Mesprit, which is just a Trick Room Healing Wish. I have Mental Herb, so if he does have something like a Taunt Keldeo, or if he had Taunt Arrow or Taunt Hydra, I'd be able to shake it off, and I can live a Hydra hit that's not like Specs, so that would I'd be able to still get my Trick Room off. And yeah, we will get into this game. UDL Season 3, Game 3, BBC King versus the BBBB in Oros. And he's going to lead with his Rocky Balboa, the Hydreigon, as I'm just going to go right for the spikes with my Greninja, and that Dragon Pulse reveals that he is Choice Specs. So here I'm just going to click Water Shuriken because I don't have a switch into this, so I can get a little bit of chip. And he goes into his Rotom, and what I did here, which was really, really dumb and just frustrating, is that I saw that on the calc it said, like, to physically defensive Rotom, 2 Water Shurikens do about, or that Water Shuriken does about 10%, but 10% was for 3 hits, not 2 hits. So like I did 9% with 2 hits. So I was thinking that it was because the Rotom wasn't like max on the calc, so I thought that maybe like it was 10% with 2 hits. So I thought this was a Phys Def Rotom, but if I calced it correctly, I would have known it wasn't. So that being the case, considering that it might be Scarf, I have options here. He could go for Hydro Pump because Greninja is so low, but he's probably going to Volt Switch here, so I could have gone Mamoswine, but I probably would have just gone Dragalge, because at the end of the day, if he does go Hydreigon, I still have this Greninja that I could preserve as a sack, but unfortunately I just sack it here to the Volt Switch because I calced wrong. So that was really frustrating, because now I'm in a really tough position. I have to bring in Scarf Infernape versus this and just click Close Combat, and he's got things like Uxie, he's got Aegislash. I'm figuring he's going to go Uxie here, but I'm just forced to Close Combat. So I Close Combat here, and he stays in, and I'm like, nice. And then he lives it, and I'm like, oh, that was genius. Like, he really played this so well and prepped this so well, because he knew that he could live a Scarf Infernape Close Combat. He knew that if I U-turned, trying to force him out, realizing how good the Hydra was, then I'd just be screwed, because I'd be just sacking something. So the fact that he pretty much put me into a corner there where I was going to be sacking something no matter what was some genius prep. I think he's been taking notes from some of my games. No, just kidding. But that's how I like to. That's ideally how I like to prep and play as well. Where no matter what your opponent does, they're just kind of forced into a bad situation like that. So really amazing prep and play on his part there. But I really shot myself in the foot by not calcing correctly with the Greninja, because then I could have just sacked my Greninja on the Hydra, and potentially played around this a little more easily. So now I bring in my Mammoth Swine because this being at -2 means I can very easily get up a screen here. So I'm going to go right for the light screen, as a -2 Draco would still do like over half to my Mammoth Swine. I am a very bulky one, but it was more Fizz Def to take on Arrow. So I get up the light screen and then the Stealth Rock, and here I probably should have just gone hard Dragalge, because his only potential special attacker here is his Aegis, or physical attacker here is his Aegis Slash. But I'm not gonna lie, at this point I was just, like I said, tilted, and I'm on autopilot mode, which is so annoying that like that's how this played out. But like it makes no sense to stay in here and set up a Reflect. Like it could be helpful for Aegis Slash, don't get me wrong, but I don't know what his set is yet, and I'm on the back foot. I can't really just stay in here all day and just hope that things are just going to work out my way. If I go into Dragalge right now, I could actually have a legitimate shot at starting to wear down his team. So I'm going to go into my, or I'm going to Reflect here, which I shouldn't have done. As here I go into my Dragalge, he just clicks a free Thunder Wave, as it stalls out turns if I want to stay in with Mamo. And here I go for the Draco, and it does a ton, but it turns out that he's Citrus Berry. So the next Draco actually isn't going to knock out, but I actually get paralyzed on this turn. So he decides to be nice and just Stealth Rock and not get like a little more chip with Foul Play, but it turns out I actually crit him with the Draco, so that was lame. But, you know, it is what it is. I don't know what to say about situations like that. That's just Pokemon. So here he brings in his Roselia, as I'm going to go back to my Mammoth Swine, because I could take a hit from Roselia behind screens pretty easily, and then set up another light screen, because like I said, that's the main screen here. So here I make another really shaky play. So I stay in here, and I click Freeze Dry on the Rotom, and like, yeah, it weakens the Rotom, and I take the pump, but I'm in range of hazards now, and I didn't have any, like, yes, if he Volt Switched out of my Dragalge, that is annoying, but his Hydreigon is so low that he doesn't have anything he could bring in that hits my Dragalge hard enough to even knock it out behind the screen. So it didn't make any sense to stay in there. Dragalge just nukes everything on his team. It literally just everything dies in one hit, other than Aegis Slash. Unless he's like an Assault Vest Keldeo or something like that. Everything just dies to just Dragon Pulse, not even Draco Meteor. So there's no reason to stay in here, because I could preserve this to potentially get more screens up later, and now I can't even like bring this back in if I wanted to get up another screen, because Hydro Pump did too much. So it just made no sense to do what I just did, as now I go into the Dragalge, and he Hydros, does 9%, as now I'm just going to Dragon Pulse here, knock this out, as now he's going to be able to bring in his Roselia. I Dragon Pulse, and it does do over half, but like I'm probably going to get paralyzed, so it's not going to be a reliable way to knock this thing out. So here I just go hard Sceptile, because I could live a Sludge Bomb behind Light Screen. I could Earthquake this, and based on the Dragon Pulse damage, he looks very Spadef. So I could Earthquake him here and put him in guaranteed range of Outrage, which I'm going to click here. And it actually turns out to be good that I'm locked into Outrage, because his Aegis Slash ended up being Weakness Policy. So if I Earthquake this to weaken it for Dragalge more, I probably just would have lost on the spot to a Weakness Policy Aegis Slash right here. Had I preserved my Mamo, that might not have been the case, because I would be healthy enough to live a Shadow Sneak, and I can get up like a just some kind of screen. But either way though, if he's at +2 and he's got both Shadow Ball and Shadow Sneak, then I don't think it would have really saved me. So so Outrage ended up being the best course of action here, because it does chip the Aegis Slash. And actually, to a kind of crucial point, I bring in my Mesprit here because I could live a Shadow Ball, and I can't even afford to go for Trick Room, because if I Trick Room and he Shadow Sneaks or Shadow Balls into Shadow Sneaks, I'll go down, and my Dragalge won't get revived with the Healing Wish. So that is unfortunate, as I'm just forced to go right for the Healing Wish here, as he goes for the King Shield. I go into my Dragalge here, as I'm just forced to click Dragon Pulse here, because if he does attack me, he actually does go down to Dragon Pulse and Blade form. But if he, I guess, stays in base form, if he's like Swords Dance or something, I probably lose. But Dragon Pulse should 2-hit KO Aegislash and Blade form too. So I have a shot here because it kind of comes down to whether the Keldeo could live a Dragon Pulse or not, or if it's a boosting item and can knock me out with an Ice move because maybe Specs Secret Sword can knock me out too. Even Specs Hydro Pump. But if he's not a boosting item, and if he can't live a Dragon Pulse, then I actually have a shot. I'm expecting Tony to bring a really bulky Keldeo because I know he loves to bring his fat Keldeos. But this is the only thing I could do. So I bring out my Dragalge, and he goes for King Shield here. I don't know if he was just scouting something or not, but either way, it kind of plays out the same way because if he attacks there, he just goes down to the Dragon Pulse. And now here he attacks. So either way, it played out the same way. And the Shadow Ball does 42%. So he lets the Hydra go down and then brings in the Keldeo because either way, it doesn't really matter. It comes down to pretty much just this one turn. Can the Keldeo knock me out or can it live the Dragon Pulse? And like I said, I know Tony loves his max HP Keldeos. Who knows if he's running Assault Vest? Who knows if he's running a lot of Special Bulk? Who knows if he's running a boosting item? You know, I just don't know. But here I'm going to click Dragon Pulse as he clicks Secret Sword, and I actually end up living it, and the Dragon Pulse does knock him out. I crit him, but he actually just brought a Timid Scarf Keldeo because it hits the same speed tier as Infernape, and Infernape was actually kind of a big threat to this team that he built, so the Scarf Keldeo could help him versus that. And he didn't really have any bulk on the Keldeo, so that Dragon Pulse was actually a guaranteed knockout from that range, which I was shocked by. And I actually ended up pulling through and winning UDL Season 3 Finals. So that was certainly a series. It was, I'm not going to sugarcoat it too much. It is not how I wanted it to go exactly. And I don't expect things to go exactly how I want them to. But basically what I mean is, like, I just didn't feel like I brought my A game at all in this series, and it's frustrating because I know I built good teams. I do feel like I wanted it more than Tony. I'm not gonna lie. I know Tony wanted me to win, even regardless of he obviously brought really good teams and played well and everything, but I know deep down he wanted me to win, just knowing how much I've struggled to win a championship over the years, and he knows how much effort I put into this and how much less he put into it than me, so I know, like, just as a good friend, he really wanted me to win. But with that being said, I am pretty confident that I put more time into the prep this week, and I do think I out-prepped overall, but I just wasn't fully there. I got so shaken up by the first game, and I don't know if it was a lack of sleep or whatever it was. Even if there is no excuse and it was just me being dumb, I just did not feel like focused like I normally do during the games, and just felt like I was on this autopilot mode, just expecting my teams to do all the lifting for me and not really doing the intricate, like, calcing and planning that I normally do. Like, everyone's making fun of me last week taking so long, taking 15 minutes versus Hiker just to click Encore, but, like, for the most part that game just taking a long time to make the perfect, like, end game plays. But I just wasn't in that state of mind during this series, so it's frustrating knowing that, like, I didn't play it nearly as well as I normally do and would have liked to. Especially being, like, this was, like, my big moment. Like, this was my UDL Season 3 Finals against my best bud, one of the greatest players to ever do it, and me going in undefeated, not dropping a single game. It's frustrating that I couldn't bring my A game, because I really do think if I did, I could have won this in 2 games, and it would have felt like a more definitive victory for me. But it just doesn't always work out the way you want it to, and it's frustrating because I feel like I just want to put that part of myself in the past, where, like, I always, like, either choke or fail whenever I want to succeed the most. It's just really frustrating because, like, I know it's Pokemon, it's a fun hobby, but, like, it's just been kind of a reoccurring theme in my life. Sorry for getting so deep on a Pokemon video, but I was ready. I was ready to move on from that. I came into this game so hyped, like so confident, like so ready to move on from that and just put that behind me, knowing like just being able to set out to do what I want to do and just get it done for a change. But it just didn't go the way I wanted it to, and I feel like it was a weaker performance on my end, even though I did end up winning. It did take a good amount of Tony being gracious to me, restarting, making some plays to cancel out hacks, like he was very gracious in all of that. So if he just, kind of played it how anyone else would have, then I don't think I would have been able to actually win this series. But he was a really good sport about it. So, thanks for that. I really appreciate it. I love you like a brother, and this was still an amazing experience that I'm sure I'll always look back on with very fond memories. But I just wish the games didn't feel the way that they did. Like I wish I felt like I was in the zone. I wish I felt like I was playing well, because I feel like I really came up with great teams, especially considering we prepped in less than a week, pretty much. Like I started prepping last Monday and I played on Monday, so it felt like I was pretty impressed with myself and him too, with how strong teams we were able to come up with in such a short amount of time, because we wanted to make sure that we didn't use up the full 2 weeks so we could help out our DPL team together. So yeah, definitely disappointed with myself. I know I hold myself to very, very high standards, but that's just because I know that I guess I am confident in what I'm capable of, but I'm not confident in just being able to like set that goal for myself and actually achieve it. And I feel like that's what I really, really wanted to do here very definitively, and I kind of fell short of that. But in the game one scenario, like a lot of that really was up to luck. Like I think that his team was really good, and maybe he still would have been able to pull it out somehow, but I do think that very, very, very likely that I would have won that game without the skull crit on Niligo. So that was unfortunate. And hopefully, like, because that's the thing too, maybe if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have been so tilted. I don't know. We'll never know, but I don't want to sit here and dwell on that stuff too much. I don't want to be too negative. This UDL Season 3 was probably the most fun I've ever had playing Pokemon, because I've had fun in the past, like, first joining Draft League and starting to get good at it, and it was all really new and exciting, and that was a feeling that's hard to replicate. But now with now having played for so many years and just having played at a very high level consistently, I feel like I've never played such tough competition week in and week out like I have in UDL. And I've just been so happy with the quality of the games, like feeling like all that prep during the week, all that hard work has been fulfilling, because it just has come to fruition with like good fun games, good results, and it really has been a great experience. And just playing it with so many people that I'm close with, like this whole UDL community really feels like a family away from home. So shout outs to you all, especially everybody who helped me so much during the season. You know who you are. Like, you guys gave me so much of your time, so I can't sit here and really put into words how much I appreciate it. Like, it really was so kind of all of you guys, and I love you all. I hope you all had a great season, even if you didn't participate, even if you're not in the league and you're watching this. Like, I hope you enjoyed whatever you've seen of it so far. And that is about it. So UDL Season 3 in the books. Best season we've had, in my opinion. Thank you for everyone who joined. Thanks to Big Tony for being such a great sport and joining, because I know it wasn't easy to get him to do it. I'm really happy with how this season went. Didn't really end on my terms exactly, but that's life. That's just, it is how it is. I'm already feeling a lot less bad than I did when, right after the game. So you take it in stride, move on, and overall, extremely proud of my season. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm down about the whole thing. Like, I really feel like I put in the work this season and really got out of it what I put into it. So that is an amazing feeling, and it was just a blast. So with that being said, we will get back to you all soon with like some end of the season awards and everything like that, just for some nice little fun as like a end of season recap. And then maybe we'll start like coming up with like a very like far in advance schedule of like what we want to do maybe for off-season tournaments and then UDL season 4, because there's so many tournaments popping up nowadays and high-level competitive stuff like your team tours, your individual tours with cash on the line. It's hard to schedule like what you want to participate in and what you don't. So I want to make sure that we are very transparent with you guys. So if you want to play UDL, you know when it's going to be, and you can kind of schedule around certain things. So we'll do our best to keep you guys updated on that. But obviously won't be for a while in terms of when the next UDL season will start. We usually do it once a year. So that's enough rambling from me. I hope you all enjoyed this season, especially. I really did, and I can't wait for more. I'm just such a big fan of UDL in general. UDL Sundays, coming home from, it's such a great way to unwind at the end of a week. Getting to watch a lot of my good friends duke it out in amazing games really has been a blast. So hope you all, like I said, have yourselves a great day, a great week, and take care of yourselves. And I will see you all in the next one later.